In 2009, Montreal will host the NHL All-Star Game for a league-high 12th time in its history. Since the tradition began back in 1947, the likes of Maurice Richard with 7 goals in 13 games, Guy Lafleur with 8 points in 5 games, and Larry Robinson with 9 points in 9 games have all represented the Canadiens with class. Others such as Jean Beliveau, Henri Richard, Pete Mahavlich, and Mark Recchi earned MVP honors. And that's not to forget Mats Neslund, who earned a record 5 assists, as well as the goaltending duo of Charlie Hodge and Gary Bauman, who stood tall to record the lone shutout in All-Star Game history. The league's annual showcase of its top talent has taken many shapes over the years. In 2003, it returned to the battle of East versus West, a format that had been used from 1969 through 1997. Prior to that, with the exception of 1951 and 1952, the All-Star Game pitted the defending Stanley Cup champions against the best of the rest for 20 years. The Canadiens, Cup winners in 1953, 1956 through 1960, and again in 1965 and 1966, welcomed the NHL's best for a battle on the Forum ice. The Habs won 3 of those games, including a 6-1 triumph in 1959. The original All-Star Games were charity contests to benefit those players whose careers had ended abruptly. The Maple Leafs' Ace Bailey was a dominant player in the league. That was until 1933, when he was the victim of a vicious hit from behind by Boston Bruins enforcer Eddie Shore. Bailey survived, but his career didn't. With that in mind, a game was organized 2 months later to raise funds. It was known as the Ace Bailey All-Star Benefit, and saw his Maple Leaf teammates face off against other league All-Stars, including Canadiens superstars Howie Morenz and Aurel Joliat. Speaking of Morenz, 5 years later, the hockey world was stunned by his death after he succumbed to injuries suffered in January 1937. Wanting to help his family, the Habs organized their own charity game the following season. On one side, the top players from both Montreal squads, the Canadiens and the Maroons. On the other, the best from the other 6 teams. A third and final charity game was held in 1939 after former Habs star and 1937 Hart Trophy winner Babe Siebert drowned ahead of the 1939-40 season. Siebert had been named Canadiens' head coach just a few weeks earlier, but never got to open the door to his new career. Beginning in 1947, the NHL decided to hold an annual matchup between the Stanley Cup champion and the remainder of the league's brightest stars. That format changed in 1969, with the league now counting 12 teams instead of 6, after the first wave of expansion in 1967. With more teams, the league could now have the 2 divisions square off, a battle of East versus West. Comprised primarily of the original 6 squads, the East dominated, winning 8 of the first 11 games. Regulars included Guy Lafleur, Jean-Claude Tremblay, Larry Robinson, Ken Dryden, Frank Mahavlich, Guy Lapointe, and Yvan Cournoyer. As more teams joined the league, the divisions became conferences, Campbell and Prince of Wales. Only twice during that time did East versus West take on a whole new meaning. In 1979, the New York Rangers were the All-Star hosts, for which they invited the top Soviet players for a 3-game NHL-USSR series known as the Challenge Cup. The ultimate NHL dynasty of the 1970s, the Canadiens, had no less than 6 players representing the team. In 1987, it was the Quebec Nordiques who had the chance to present the All-Star Game. They followed the Rangers' lead and also invited the Soviets. The NHL was led by superstars Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and included Canadiens Rick Green, Chris Chelios, and Claude Lemieux, as well as head coach Jean Perron. Both sides would stay perched at the top, each winning a game. A sport that emanated from the New World's frozen ponds, hockey conquered the globe in the 20th century. At the end of the century, though, it was time for North Americans to prove they were still masters of their trade. The NHL opted to throw some international flavor into the All-Star Game from 1998 to 2002. The new format saw the top North American players line up against those from other continents. North America won 3 of the 5 meetings. Just as it was when the Canadiens dominated in the past, the Habs will be well represented this year. Carey Price, Andrei Markov, Mike Komisarek, Alex Kovalev, and head coach Guy Carbonneau will shine brightly with the rest of the stars at the 57th All-Star Game at the Bell Center, meaning hockey fever is higher than ever in a city of 100 steeples.